Elias Spartan Theodorou, and you're watching Pure Evil MMA.
Alright guys, I got a special guest for us here today on Pure Evil MMA. I'd like to welcome a UFC Middleweight with a couple wins by knockout. He's considered to have one of the best hair in combat sports and also a model stuntman by day. Winner of Tough Nations, former ECC NAAF Series champ, Elias Theodorou. What's going on, Elias? How are you doing today?
Not bad. Currently in Melbourne, 30 degrees Celsius. For those that need the translation in Fahrenheit, good luck. But no, feeling good. Like you said, fresh off my latest win and happy to chat.
Yeah, man, fresh off that win over Dan Kelly, and it's no walk in the park to get by Dan Kelly. There were a lot of people on Twitter I saw, they were like, it's kind of like a lose-lose situation for Elias, because whether he wins, it's like, I'm beating Dan Kelly, and if you lose, you lost to an old guy. So what's your response to people like that? Because Dan Kelly is really no walk in the park for anybody.
I agree. He's proven that age is but a number. Competitor through and through, and someone that's been competing in his specific sport longer than I've been on this earth.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you judge a book by its cover, you wouldn't expect him to have beaten the likes of Rashad Evans, Carl's Jr. I always call him Carl's Jr. Just like the food, the burger
Yeah,
joint.
yep.
But anyways, point being, he went on a 4-fight win streak, and he and I both touched the top 15, although we lost subsequently after that. But a competitor through and through, and it was a good way for me to close out the chapter of The Ultimate Fighter. As someone, he was someone that was on the show as well,
Yep.
and went on a very good run afterwards. But I proved on Sunday, Australian time, why I won the Ultimate Fighter, and he did not.
And you know what? I wanted to bring that back, man. Like, are the Australian fans ever gonna be a fan of you? I mean, because you were on the Tough Nations against them, pretty much. So I don't think they're ever gonna cheer for you. But I loved your response with the smile into your cheeks and the old Japanese gimmick.
Yeah, exactly. The funny thing is, I've actually been noticed about a dozen times here in Australia, and everyone's been super respectful. There's also a huge Greek community here, right? So Melbourne, per se, has the largest Greek population in a city outside of Greece. So there's a lot of Greeks that have been saying hello and wishing me nothing but love and well wishes along the way. And, even in my time, I've been here in Australia now since November 1st. So I, kind of wanted to skip the jet lag and any kind of daylight or time difference issues. And, everyone here, even the Australians that I trained with at Eagers MMA and Ultimate Defense Academy, they've opened their doors wide open to me and allowed me to train and even helped me along the way.
One thing I really want to point out is your kicks over the weekend, man. Definitely really impressed me. There's, a lot of people out there that didn't know if you're going to get past Dan Kelly. So, what was one thing going into this fight camp that you were really worried about? Because I know he was really pushing the pace a lot in that fight, which I was really surprised. He just kept moving forward, but every time you had an answer for him, you put together some really nice combos. And that kick, was that something that you really worked on in this fight camp?
For sure. I going into this, I had 5-inch reach advantage, so I knew the kick advantage would be even more so. I'm very good at finding a way to, nullify my opponents and impose my will. And I think, obviously, there's still room to grow. And as someone that's only been competing in any capacity for 5 years, and you factor in the fact that I've only been doing martial arts another 2 or so years after that, not that bad for someone that, picked mixed martial arts right after his first university, and a couple of years later jumped in the big leagues.
And it's so crazy because you're pretty much my age, so it's really a new sport for us. I mean, in high school there wasn't MMA gyms when you're driving around. It was karate or taekwondo. I mean, we were just really focused on baseball, basketball, skateboarding, and stuff like that. I mean, this sport is relatively new for us, and you're totally new to the sport, like you said. But when you came on that season of Ultimate Fighter, man, you looked like you were no stranger to it. I mean, you looked like a mini Matt Hughes or something, like with all those takedowns and stuff. So this is something that's really come natural to you. What do you think, really helped build up that athleticism in you? Was it the skateboarding? Because I know that you were, stuntman before this. What could you really thank in your past that, really got you to where you are today?
Yeah, I joke around all the time where I basically took my high school career, got in a lot of fights in high school, and then just added my university career. I went to school for advertising, so I'm basically fighting and then developing the brand that is myself. So, when people say nowadays that, going to college might be useless, not necessarily. You might end up becoming a professional fighter and learning how to, pay for it.
It's so funny. You're not one of the only guys in the octagon that's a model, but you are one of the only guys in the octagon that's on 8 different romance novels. How the hell does that come about? And what are the names of these novels? Have you read them? Have you seen these novels that you're on?
Yeah, it's actually 11. I'm on 11 novels.
Holy shit.
But yeah, no, it's hilarious. Some of them, they're smut, right? They're smut novels. I would never let my mother read any of them. Some of it's like, Reading After Dark, or what's it called, Battle Galactica. But I've actually been on a bestseller, which I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it ended up being a bestseller and from a world-renowned novelist in some capacity. So my butt has been on the cover of a few covers, and it just adds to kind of the wheelhouse of what I do. I'm a jack of all trades, and that goes in the cage, but also outside of the cage. I love the opportunity to just be a part of as much as possible, but obviously my passion, my focus is mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I saw that before you were on The Ultimate Fighter that you actually had a couple of job offerings to go on RoboCop and Godzilla. How did that come about? I mean, are you in the acting business? I mean, what were you going to do in those movies?
Yeah, no, again, it was through the stunts. Again, with acting, and same thing goes with stunts, even more so with stunts, it's a very tight community. So there's a lot of acting opportunities in Toronto, in Vancouver, and the stunt coordinator that I was working with at the time basically said, hey, I have all these things coming up. You're more welcome to join and be a part of it. But it was at that point I really wanted to, bury my head and become the best fighter I can be, and I'm still doing that today.
Definitely happy that you chose that path. So one of the biggest things that stands out about you that everyone's always talking about, like I said when I introduced you, is your hair, man. And when you're on The Ultimate Fighter, it was short. Was this the first time that really grown your hair out, or did you have long hair as a kid?
Yeah, no, I definitely had long hair as a kid. It was just when I became a professional fighter, obviously I wanted to get my hair out of my face. And then at a certain point, you just kind of time it out and make sure that, you go from the awkward stage to the long hair stage, and then put it back properly. I actually blame my first loss to Thiago Santos on a wardrobe malfunction with my hair, where basically my man bun, I only put it in a man bun and it kind of came out. And all the times I was getting hit, it kind of looked like it was landing flush, when in reality it was hitting my arms and my hair was going back. Although I think that fight was more of a tie than anything. I don't think the final round was a 10-8 round as two of the judges put, but you learn from your losses either way. Put your hair in braids. That's what the learning lesson was.
There was nothing better than when Sam Alvey walked out with that wig on, man. That was one of the funniest moments in recent times.
Yeah, no, it was actually hilarious. And I gave him actually a couple beers that were called Kick a Ginger, and I definitely did the next day.
I mean, a lot of people out there don't realize, for those people out there that don't follow the sport thoroughly, they don't realize how close a lot of the UFC fighters are. Sam Alvey is like the guy, I feel like everybody loves. So, were you able to do anything after the fight with Smiling Sam?
No, he's a family man, right? So,
that's true.
He was just focused on his kids, and his wife was ready to pop at that very second. She was like 9 months pregnant, and they ran off to do another fight like 2 weeks later. So she was even more pregnant. So, no, again, cordial. I have nothing but respect to anyone that steps in the cage, and especially those that step in the cage with me. It's a true honor, and that includes Dan Kelly. There's no real animosity. It just, a couple things happened beforehand, and when he put his hand out to touch hands, it kind of threw me by surprise, especially for what he did earlier in the week.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're just coming off a couple of days of fighting, and Bisping is about to fight in a couple days now, and he just had that recent loss to GSP. Do you think this is a smart idea? It's definitely something I need to touch on for recent news and stuff.
You know what? Only he represents himself, right? So like he knows how hurt he may have gotten, or how eager he is to get back in there. But he's kind of made it sound like he only has 2 more left in him. He's a veteran through and through and deserves to do what he feels right by him. You know what I mean? Obviously, with that being said, Gaslam's a very tough opponent, and he's taking it off of, potentially quite a bit of damage from George. So, is it necessarily the wisest thing? Maybe not. But, it's what he thinks he needs to go out on his shield and, end a career where he can say that he was a UFC champion and make a couple more $1 million bucks. You know what I mean? He gets to do the UFC a favor, and he's going to get paid this fight. He's going to get paid next fight.
It really wouldn't feel the same without Michael Bisping. This is a guy that's been around for so many years and really just had a great run. GSP is a hard guy to crack, and I don't know, man. I don't think Michael Bisping did that bad last week, and like a lot of people are making it out. So this should be a fun, exciting one. So I got a fan question for you, Elias, from Pamela Yvette. She wants to know, what's the weirdest food that you've had in your travels?
Weirdest food?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm just weird because like I add sauces to everything, and I'll make any combination to anything. I don't think there's anything specifically weird, but I've been tempted to have kangaroo while I'm out here in Australia.
Stay away from the kangaroo meat. Elias, stay away from that kangaroo meat.
Exactly. That's why. Like, even though Frank Mir's explanation is a little fishy, it's kind of stuck with me. So I'm like a little terrified. Even though I've seen some kangaroos, and my girlfriend and I are actually going to head over to the zoo here and go pet some kangaroos and touch the koalas.
Oh, no shit.
So will I eat a koala? Probably not, because they have like 60% of them have chlamydia, and they're actually dying out.
Oh my God, I didn't know. That's a crazy fact. Wow.
Fun facts.
Yeah, how long are you going to be staying down there for? I mean, is this your permanent gym that you're staying down there? Because I know that you were training in Canada forever.
Yeah, no. I'm here till November 30th. I basically came out the first of the month, and staying with the missus about 10 days afterwards to enjoy the fruits of my labor, and going back, and I'm pretty much in shape. Kind of fall in the I guess throes of Bisping. There's obviously UFC Winnipeg and 4 middleweights fighting. I'm still about weight, and if they need me, I'll be ready and sanctioned to fight in Canada.
You didn't get any medical suspension after the fight or anything like that?
7 days.
Just 7 days? That's not bad at all.
Yep.
So I know that a lot of fighters don't like, thinking about what's next, but I definitely think it's a great idea to get the listeners or the fans a little excited about what direction you're heading in. I know that you're saying you're ready if the UFC needs you, but do you have your eyes set up like on any 3 fighters or direction of somebody here moving forward?
Yeah, no, someone that's obviously on my eye and radar. It's someone like Anthony Smith or
Lionheart.
Carl's Jr. Like I said. Lionheart, great fighter. He's come off of 3, I think, spectacular knockouts. So he's definitely someone on my radar. Same with Carl's Jr.
Yeah.
Again, a very tough opponent. That's kind of where my thought process is. And one of the people that I really wanted to fight was Nate Marquardt, but he obviously lost. It'd be amazing to share the cage with such a legend like that.
Former champion, yeah.
Exactly. The beautiful thing, obviously, coming off a win, I have all the options moving forward, and it's going to be interesting where I kind of fall in. I think it's important for me to just always stay in shape, and if the right fight comes, I might be fighting it sooner rather than later.
So before we let you go, there's a couple of questions that I really need to ask you. I mean, I've been asking every fighter that has come on the show for the recent last couple of months. But this whole McGregor-Mayweather thing, it just got past us. First off, where were you during all this? Because as annoying as it really was, it was a really big deal for our sport. A lot more people are now interested in watching UFC or boxing. So, you know, where were you during all this?
Yeah, no, I watched it at a local bar, and basically just took it all in. I hosted an event at Boston Pizza, which is a franchise out in Canada, and I did the one by John and Finch, and it's like right next to my house, and it was a great time. It was amazing. You were talking about how big of a deal it was. They were at capacity, and they hold like 300 people, if not more. And there were people with lawn chairs outside the bar, and they like people are cracking up beers outside the bar, and like this is like downtown Toronto. It was crazy. There were thousands of people in the streets because they could not watch the fight in the bar. So it was a huge opportunity for McGregor and Mayweather, who gets to be 50-0, and they both made all the money. And you know, I'm happy for McGregor and his ability to, you know, do him, but you know, it's one of those cases where his success in some ways helps our success, because whether it's, you know, new eyeballs or new purse opportunities.
Yeah, I've been saying that when that was all going on, whether I was going to the bank or meeting my ice cream man, they were all talking about, like, people I never knew cared about fights. All of a sudden they're like asking me all these questions. As tired as I was of people kind of hunting me down and asking me about it, I realized how big of a deal it was, and I really think it's at least doubled with fans, at least casual fans. People are going to be interested. A new generation of fight fans are coming out of Mayweather, McGregor, and now they're saying that Pacquiao wants to fight McGregor. Can we shut this down, or what are your thoughts on this? Is this ridiculous, or what?
Let it happen. It already happened. You know what I mean? Like the floodgates, the situation has already opened its door. That Pandora box has already opened, right? Yeah. So, you know, especially when you have a company that bought the UFC for $4.2 billion and has $100 million in interest alone a year on that debt, they got to pay it somehow. And, you know, an opportunity for Mayweather, or McGregor rather, to fight Pacquiao would be, again, huge for the zeitgeist of mixed martial arts and you know, just his name recognition, the UFC's recognition, et cetera, and you know, it pushes more in regards to our likeness to boxers, and that's a huge opportunity, especially, you know, things that have been kind of floated out in the last little bit in regards to adding UFC fighters potentially in the Ali Act, et cetera. So I think there's a huge opportunity for fighters, and all press is good press.
Yeah, definitely 100%. Before we let you go, I got one more question for you regarding the news. Speaking of Conor McGregor, his former opponent, and hopefully we're going to see the rubber match with Nate Diaz. Diaz wants to call out Woodley. What do you think about this? And he wants $15 million. Should he get that?
Well, I understand. The bigger argument would be, should he even get the fight? But if that's already happening, all the power to him, all the power to Woodley. I hope they make as much money as possible. Yeah. And for him to hold out, you know, why not? Like, it's the idea that that's what he believes his price is, and you know, whether they meet him somewhere in the middle. And I even seen Woodley kind of say, "You make 5, I make 5, and winner gets 5." So that's a potential compromise. And with pay-per-views, et cetera, there are a lot of options. So honestly, I just hope they all make as much money as possible. And, you know, I'm always team fighter.
Elias, I want to thank you so much for coming on Pure Evil MMA. What we like to do at this point, if you have any shout-outs, any sponsors, like Reebok, I guess the only sponsor that you can really shout out here, the floor is all yours now.
Oh, that's not true at all. I'm actually the main ambassador in North America. I'm also an HBN athlete. I Fuel Foods, that's what I run on. And I'm recently partnered with a company y'all might know. It's called Mattel. I'm the face of Stockholm Robots.
That's awesome.
So, and I got a couple other really cool opportunities in the pipeline. And I'm actually a brand ambassador for Under Armour. So that's a little play right there. So, no, and more importantly, thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. And, you know, hope everyone I want to thank everyone that kind of, watched my fight, and looking forward to improve and grow and get the finish next time.
Thank you so much, Elias. Have a great time while you're still down over there in Australia. And thank you for coming on Pure Evil MMA.